Now, where are you from?
Sylacauga, Alabama, born and raised.
And for somebody not familiar with that, what's the closest major city one may be familiar with?
Birmingham. It's about 30 minutes away from Birmingham and about 40 minutes away from Montgomery.
Okay. Now, you still currently reside in that
Yes,
city?
I'm still in Sylacauga. I still work a 9 to 5, you know, the usual, the same old, anybody else is doing out there that's, you know, trying to succeed, trying to better themselves and trying to be great. Still doing the same thing, still staying in the home city.
Now, growing up, what was it like for you in that city? Can you paint that picture for us?
Yes, I can. It was tough because like people in Sylacauga or the Alabama where I stay, it was more or less like they really didn't want to see you succeed because they didn't succeed, and it was like, well, since they didn't succeed, they didn't want to see you succeed. So whenever they see you being prosperous and got something going for yourself, they try to bring you down, or they try to, you know what I'm saying, push you to the side. Like, nah, you don't have what it takes, or you're not on the level that you're supposed to be on because I'm not on the level that I'm supposed to be on. It was kind of like that, and it's a bunch of see, in Sylacauga, it's a bunch of racism. So, you know, you got to try to stay up, stay on your toes, and, you know, just stay out the way. That's the best thing I can say. It was tough, but at the same time, I was pretty popular. So people kind of liked me because I was kind of like, I didn't care what color you were, how you looked or anything. It was just, hey, you're you, I'm me. Let's get to know each other. Let's meet each other. Hey, meet and greet.
We're talking about in general, or are we talking about in school?
In general, like outside of school, in school was the worst. In school, it was like we had race wars going on. Like we had it where it was like the police had to come to our school, BB Comer High. The police had to come to our school because it was so much racism going on that they had to stand on each hallway to where it was like, oh snap, the police is coming through. Oh snap, you got to watch your back because the police is there. And before school, people was fighting, all kind of stuff. It was ridiculous.
Was this a school of predominantly a certain race, or was it all mixed?
It was mixed. It was mixed. Most of it, I say it was mixed. Like most of my classes were like, I say it was more whites in my class. It was more whites, but at the same time, I would say it was probably about. It was more whites in my class. It was more whites for sure.
When it comes toward racism, and by the way, did you get physical because of it yourself?
Nah, I never got physical because I was pretty much cool with everybody. Everybody knew who I was, so they kind of respected me.
Okay. When it comes to racism, was there a worse incident that you faced as an obstacle personally?
It wasn't in school. It was more like outside of school. It was just like walking into gas stations. It was just like they see my hair, they see my skin color, and they see like, I guess my brown complexion, and they like, oh snap, he's not one of us. So we're gonna stare him down until he leaves. It was something like that.
And how'd you deal with that when that happened?
I just stayed out the way, went in the store for my business and left, honestly.
And what race was it that was staring you down?
It was white people.
They stared you down, but did they say anything?
They never said anything, but you can feel the stares. You can feel the looks. You can feel whenever they watch you pick up a certain item. You can just look at it and just to check the price tag, and they're already judging you. You can feel it as soon as you walk in the door.
Now, being in school and what you said, race wars. Was this stuff happening outside of school too, the race war feel?
It wasn't happening outside of school because
okay, it was just in
they respected each other's boundaries then.
Okay.
At that point in time, it was like, we'll stay here, y'all stay there. It was divided.
Was there a chance or an opportunity you could have gone to a different school to
It was actually a school not even a mile away. We had two schools. It was separated by railroad tracks, Sylacauga High and BB Comer. They're separated by railroad tracks. So like I could have went to Sylacauga if I wanted to because of where I stayed, or I could have went to Coosa Central. I could have went there, but I decided to stay at BB Comer because that's where all my friends were. My family went there, so decided to stay there.
Even despite the racial stuff.
Even despite the racial stuff, because that was something that you got to get used to in life. Like that's something that you got to get used to. If you gotta take that criticism and throw it out the window. Throw it as soon as it comes in your mind. You gotta take it and throw it away, because if you don't, then it's gonna dwell on you and it's gonna bring you down.
But at any given point, safe to say you could have switched schools if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could have. I actually tried at one point in time because I was trying to pursue a football career, but nah, that wasn't meant for me.
I see. Now, you spoke of something else when you painted that picture of growing up about people trying to bring you down. I guess you were talking about yourself, or were you talking in third person of just general nature, people trying to bring people down?
No, I'm speaking on like people in the city, like. They would see you being successful, and they would just try to bring you down because Sylacauga is more of a retirement city. It's more of where people go to retire and just kick back and relax. That's the reason why I say they try to bring you down, because they were, I guess you would say, corrupt of where they were from and were in their position, that no matter how hard they felt like they could work, it still, I guess, wasn't good enough for them to actually get up off their ass and go work and go be something.
So how'd you deal with that when that happened, when people tried to bring you down? How'd you cope?
Work. Work. I mean, like, that's the only thing you can think about, like, especially whenever you're feeling like some days you go to work, you feel like this ain't cutting it. This is not where I'm supposed to be in life. This is not where I'm supposed to be at. Hey, you think of those negative thoughts that people whenever people try to bring you down, that will make you pick everything up and, all right, it's time to go get it. What you gonna do whenever something like that happens? It's part of life. You gotta take it. You gotta take it and manifest it into energy. You can't take it and bring it into a negative vibe. If you do, then you won't strive.
Now, financially, how'd you grow up?
Financially, we were all right. I'd say we were middle class.
Okay.
Middle class, I would say, but
lower middle, higher middle, just middle?
I would say lower middle because I'm not for sure of what age, but my parents both worked at the same job, and it was a factory job, and the job closed down. So my parents were without a job for a while, like a long, long time, like a ridiculous amount of time. It was like, shoot, we had to do what we had to do. But at the end of the day, they made sure that me, my brother, my sister, they made sure that we were all fine. They made sure we had a great Christmas and we all had smiles on our face, because at the end of the day, that's all your parents want to see you do is smile.
Did you have to chip in?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
I was too young to even work by then.
Because you said it happened for a while that they were out of work, so I didn't know if that was an age that
it wasn't too long, because my parents, they always had a good hustle about them. Like they scraped up change. They made sure that they did something, no matter if it was doing this or doing that. They made sure that they scraped up change.
When it comes to you growing up, and it comes to making money yourself, I know sometimes people will go the job route. Sometimes people will take a street path and indulge in street activity for money. Did you do one or the other?
I tried the street activity.
You did?
I tried it. It worked, but it wasn't for me. Like, I was finessing. I was finessing left and right. Like, people would, like, hey, I need this, I need that. Busting your head left and right. I was finessing. But at the same time, I didn't want to take that route, because I felt like if I would have kept going, then I would have slipped up and been nowhere. I wouldn't have been here, for sure.
Now, when you were doing that, was that a friend or family member that put you onto that?
No, that was all me. That was all me. That was my choice, my decision. That was what I was facing and going through at the time, because I was working a 9 to 5. I was working at Sonic Drive-In. I was working at Sonic doing that, and it was coming in left and right, but it wasn't for me because I could just feel it. It was like the vibe and everything is right. Whenever you get in that zone, whenever you get in that mode, you can feel certain vibes. You know what's going on, and you especially know what's like, all right, this ain't right for me. This is not for me. You know you're calling.
Now, obviously, with street activity, there can be some things that can happen with that path. Consequences, a certain level of stress, the looking over your shoulder feeling.
Always.
Violence, jail, worst case, death. Did you experience any of these obstacles yourself?
I had a close friend of mine that actually died over a dice game. Lil Bank D-Man, he had died over a dice game just shooting dice, and I guess you could call that a street activity because most people in the street do that, you know.
Gambling.
Yeah, gambling is, you know, it's part of the game. I done been shot at. I done been stabbed in my back by my closest friends. Hey, man, I done been through it all, you know, but at the same time, that's why I say that wasn't for me, because I didn't want to deal with that the rest of my life. I didn't want to have to deal with that going through being successful and prospering. Like, I didn't want to look over my shoulder 24/7. That's not the type of person I am. I don't want to look over my shoulder all the time. That's not me. But I did take that route just to see what it felt like, just to see how it was, just for the experience. You know, whenever you're young, you're experimental, and it's up to you to experiment. And if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, then it's not.
When you say stabbed in the back, you meant figuratively, not literally.
Not literally, no. I've never been stabbed.
Okay. Did you know this stuff from the jump?
I didn't. That's the reason why it was experimental. I had to go through it in order for me to understand it, in order for me to learn from it. Because if I would have been through it, or if I would have went through it, then I wouldn't have actually did it, because it was lessons to be learned. It was like it was certain stages in life that you go through just to see where you at and to know where you at. So with you going through stuff like that, you have to understand where it's coming from. You have to understand, all right, these are laws you gotta abide by. Either you with them or you ain't. If you ain't, back out. That's just not for you. And I ain't saying back out as in just quit and just bail, because it's not for you. It wasn't meant for me. That wasn't my route. That wasn't the route I wanted to take at all.
From the time you were doing all this stuff, was there any regrets?
Of course. I was the one that showed most people what weed was, like what weed was, lean was, what liquor tastes like. I was the one that showed people this stuff, and that was my biggest regret of all time. That's my biggest regret, showing people of what it was, because I didn't want them to be thinking back to the first time and they see my face. That was one of the things I say I will regret the most.
Introducing them to that?
Yes. Just because it was fun, it was funny, it was something you can laugh at. That's something that I didn't want to show people.
So maybe somebody's first sip of lean was at your hand. Maybe their first smoke of marijuana was at your hand.
Yes.
Not to say that they couldn't do that through another means.
That's
aside
true.
Yourself.
Yeah, but I didn't want it to be through me. At the end of the day, I didn't want them to be introduced by me. But at the same time, it could have been a positive direction with that, because if they didn't get introduced that through me, then they would have a bad experience, like a totally bad experience. So I guess it was good that I kind of introduced them to it, because at the end of the day, people know that I'm humble. I'm giving, you know, and they know that I give my lawn to somebody. So people know, like, whenever I do something for you, or whenever I show you something, it's for experience, and it's for a more of a life lesson than more of a just like, oh, I want you to try this and see how you act type shit, you know.
Now, what about your parents? Did you hide this stuff from your parents? Did they ever?
Yes. I hid it completely. But my mom caught me. My mom caught me with some weed, though. She knew what was up. I tried to hide it. I tried to lie. She wasn't going for it. She knew what was up.
What was her reaction when she found out?
Pissed. She didn't really explain to me how she felt because she was so disappointed and upset. But I knew how she felt, and her energy that she gave me was like, I'm disappointed type of feeling. Something that I never want to experience again in my life.
Now, while you were doing this, you were still in school at the same time?
I had just graduated. I was fresh out of school.
Okay.
Graduated 2014.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you have any advice or not. General advice here, because circumstances could be different for everybody. But let's say there's somebody watching this and maybe wants to get into that path. Any advice to somebody watching this?
Don't try it. Listen to your first mind. Peer pressure is a motherfucker. Don't listen to it. Listen to your first mind, your conscience, because your conscience will always lead you right, especially your first mind. So listen to your first mind. If your first mind telling you don't try it, then don't. But if you're feeling like, hey, I'm feeling lucky tonight, I might gamble with my life, try it.